Thank you, Bhaskar, and it's such an honor, privilege, and joy to be a part of this. I know our last interaction in your podcast was again one of the experiences which I'll never forget because that brought out so many parts of outside my professional career, which we discussed in that. And when I was hearing it back again, when you shared the recording, I said, "Oh my, I was this, and today I am this." So it's a lifetime journey, It has, and again, these beautiful songs which you played, which are my favorites. They also made me nostalgic in a sense. And then I was just trying to think like why did I go nostalgic about it? And so I realized that actually it was the experiences which I had with these songs, or the moments when these songs were played. There are some experiences related to it, which has remained with it. And somehow that is connected with what we are going to discuss today in this particular webinar in the session. I'll try to be as sharp I can, keep it as concise I can, but I'm so emotional about this particular topic that I go on stretching myself. So I have set my iWatch on 15 minutes alarm that I should not spend more than that on this particular topic and move from there. So I have gaps of, but anyway, I will try to be as concise as well. So thank you everyone for being here. And I hope there is some good learnings and takeaways for you from this particular webinar. And as you see, or as you basically know from the topic of the webinar, it is about applying design thinking and applying design thinking in bids and proposals. So without any further ado, I think Bhaskar has given a great introduction, so I don't need to introduce any further beyond that. Anything else, you can find it on LinkedIn. If you are not connected with me on LinkedIn, please do connect with LinkedIn. And let's get started from here. So we all know that every proposal, uh, every opportunity, every proposal, it starts with only one intention. Anywhere globally, any team, proposal team working has got only one intention when they start working on a proposal, and that's to win the deal. And that win the deal by proving to the customer that we, as the organization, we understand your needs, we have a great solution, we would deliver a great experience, and our team is great, has great capabilities, and we are better than the competition. And that all reflects in our proposals in whatever form they may be, in whether it's in our narratives or whether it's our presentations, or even the clarifications or the questions and answers we need to answer to the client as a part of in the part of the proposal process. And all our proposal initiatives, basically, if you see all our proposal initiatives, they start with a great kickoff meeting and brainstorming session, knowledge transfer from the capture teams, from the teams which are interfacing, or the individuals who are interfacing or interacting with the clients. There are great strategies which are coming from the management team. There are war room sessions, there are deal strategy sessions, there are solutions strategy sessions, and we are coming out with all these win themes, value propositions, forming the proposal strategy, deal battle card, and everything. And ultimately, if you seek, everybody has got only one suggestion, one recommendation, and one guidance for the bid team, for the proposal team, is that our proposal should be client-centric. Well, creating client-centric proposals is not a new thing. We hear it every day. It's a APMP best practice, and for all good reasons. So we put the client at the heart of our bid response. We name the client many more times than we name ourselves in our proposal response. We provide compelling content that differentiates us from the rest of the pack of competitors. Our approach is towards creating a client-centric proposal is by identifying the customer's needs, their hot buttons, their motivators, and writing to those needs. Our proposals, they outline every need, every issue, every hot button of the client, and how we are, and we demonstrate how we are going to address them. We try to provide every compelling content and every reason to and every proof point to substantiate that, to influence our evaluators to evaluate us, to choose us. But still, not every deal is a win for us. And when we lose a deal and we do a deal review or have input from the clients or our internal teams, the second good reason, of course, you have guessed the first reason right, I believe, that it is pricing, because of which we lost. But the second good reason which we get to hear is that we were not client centric. Okay, our proposal didn't meet the client's expectations. We were not client centric. We missed out in being client centric. So what went wrong? We did everything. We took all the measures to be client centric in our proposal. We were compliant, we were responsive, we were competitive. But then why did the client select the competitor? Well, this perennial question for everyone who has been into bid and proposal management has been with me, has intrigued me for years. And I kept on finding out, I kept on researching on it, forming hypotheses on it, doing experiments with it. And I had that liberty to do the experiments. I was heading the sales enablement team, the sales support team, the pre-sales team, the bid management team for several global multinationals. So I had that liberty to experiment with it. And finally, I reached a conclusion and I formed a practice around it after researching and experiencing it for so many years. And now, for my last couple of years, after I reached that conclusion, I formed a practice around it. I have been putting it into use in all my professional engagements, and I have seen drastic results out of it. And not only for myself, but also for the clients to whom I consult, and they all stand by it today. So what I want is that you also experience that practice. Now, but to experience that practice, I want you to not to take my word for it, but rather experience it by yourself. And for that, let us do a very small experiment over here. Let us, or rather, let me say that let us play a small game. Okay. So everybody in for it? Show me a thumbs up in your chat. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, in next 90 seconds, I will show you three entities. In fact, I will show you three slides which has got which represent three entities, and there are certain assertion statements which I have made about related to those entities, in that to that particular entity in that slide. And at the end of the 90 seconds, you have to tell me in your chat, you can tell me in your chat whether which of the entity and the related assertion statement. And believe me, this is something like your those who are done your foundation test and are now preparing for your practitioner test. This is something you will find something like that in your practitioner test also. So in a way, it is like preparing for your practitioner level test. So there is an entity and there is a set of assertions. You have to tell me which entity and assertion is right. Are all of them right? Are all of them wrong? Or which one is wrong? Okay, you may say A if it is all right, if you may say B if all wrong, and C you may say some right, some wrong. Okay, so ready for the game? Just type in A, B, or C in the chat and let's see how it goes. Okay, so here we go, 90 seconds. The first entity. "30 seconds gone. The next entity. Third, and the last but not the least entity. So now stop thinking and just type in your first answer that comes to your mind, whether it's all the entities and the assertions related to the entities hold true, if not B, if none of them hold true, or C, somewhat they hold true. Great. Great. I see great inputs, and you all are right. If you are saying A, that all of them are right, yes, you are correct. If you are saying C, yes, there are very subtle differences, but yes, if you take it at a larger if you see it from a larger perspective, it actually every assertion holds true, whether it is a presentation, whether it is a proposal, or whether it is a product. And the only thing that binds these three things is nothing but our emotions, is nothing but the experience. So if you see the line, the final assertion or the statement below every entity, it is actually related to a emotion. Okay, for whether it is for a presentation, whether it's for a product. So everything is ultimately related to the emotion, everything is related to that human part of it, and not only the rational part, logic part of it. It is also related to that human part of it. Now what is that? That is, and where, how do we find that? That is where basically when we get into the, when we move from client centricity to client empathy. Now in this today's ultra competitive business environment in which we uh, live, and which we execute our professional responsibilities, we need to understand that we need to go beyond client centricity. We need to build client empathy, and that needs to be reflected, that needs to reflect in our business proposals. So a business proposal not only needs to appeal to the client's core business drivers or the needs or issues or the hot buttons, it also needs to make an appeal to the client's core buying emotions. And as a APMP fellow, Mike Parkinson, I am sure many of you and most of you must be knowing about Mike Parkinson. And for me, a good reason to refer Mike Parkinson is because Mike is not only a good old friend, but he is also one of the board of advisors. And he is one of the key drivers behind this new product, which we have been building over the last 1 year, Slide Edge. And I will talk a little bit of it at the end of it. But Mike is one of the persons who has been driving this, who has been sharing his all thoughts. And like what Mike says is that, and it is very common if you hear his one of his talks, is he's one of the best speakers, the best, and he was there in one of your webinars, I believe, Baachu, very recently. So you people must be remembering him. And what Mike says in his talks is that people buy with emotion and they rationalize with logic. So, and it holds true. If you logically, if you think about it, you will see that when people buy, and even apply it to your own sense, and you say that when you buy something, and specifically when people buy in a professional capacity, they have an emotional stake in the success of the product or the program, whether they are it is an opportunity for a execution of or delivering a product or a platform, or it is about executing a project. They have an emotional stake in the success of it. And it might be also, if they are equally worried about losing their jobs if something goes wrong. They are losing about their worried about harming their professional reputation, or even, and most importantly, damaging their company for a wrong reason. So whatever the reason may be, we need to consider the emotional stakes of the proposal evaluators, who are the human who are going to look, read, and experience our proposals. So what empathetic proposals do is that they make clear the emotional connection with the evaluator. And it goes further than that, showing that we not only understand what you need, it shows or reflects what you need, why you need it, and how do you miss, how would your life change, how would the day in your life change when you have it, the impact of it. And there is a very subtle difference, but a very critical difference here between the client centricity and the client empathy. That is, by focusing on the why, we actually get to the heart of the evaluator professional, and not just in his mind. So we go beyond the mind into the heart of it. And by knowing why something is a pain point or why it is a hot button for the customer, we can actually articulate our solution better than just complying to it or just being responsive to it. And in this return, the narrative which we create, the language which we use, the understanding which we use to reflect our thoughts in our proposal, that helps our clients to feel at ease with what we are proposing, and not only feel at ease with what we are proposing, but also builds a level of trust and engagement. Now, this emotional connection to influence the buying decision is something what is driven by a client empathetic or a empathetic proposal. So the empathetic component in the proposal, it provides that emotional rationale, our technical sales capability information which we share, the persuasiveness which we provide in our proposal, they provide the contextual information which is needed for the rationalization. But for the emotional decision, for the emotional part, we need a more human-centric approach in our business proposals. And that's what exactly I called as the innovation we have to have in our proposals, in our business bid management processes. And by bringing it has been my personal experience that by bringing in this experience, we actually create a new value worth delivering an experience. And this, as I said, is driven by an approach, is driven by a mindset, what we call as the design thinking. And that's what we are going to discuss in this webinar. I see a hand raised up here. Is there a question here? Okay, we may take the questions at the end of it, if you don't mind, Bhaskar, if that's okay with you, Bhaskar.
Totally, Abhijit, totally. That's it. Please add the questions in the chat box. We'll consolidate and we'll ask at the very end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So what exactly is design thinking? Okay, now, well, I'm sure that most of you have heard of it, you know about it, you have heard somebody referring to it, maybe your design team, your engineering team, your delivery project teams, they are referring to design thinking, as it is one of the most trendiest and the hottest topic in the entire business, in the business innovation circles. And you hear all the major companies, whether it's Apple, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Google or Coca-Cola, every industry, any industry, every geography, somewhere or the other, they say they practice design thinking. And possibly you are all well informed about what design thinking is. You might be having your discussions with your clients about it, taking a design thinking approach. You may be applying design thinking in your work, at your work. But let me tell you one thing, and let me share this with you. One thing is that bid and proposal managers by default are design thinkers. They may not know about it because they may not have gone through a formal training. They may not have gone through any, they may not be practicing it in a formal manner, but unknowingly you are a design thinker, and I will show you the reason for it, why I say so. But before that, let me just touch upon what exactly design thinking is. There are different schools of design thinking, but this is the one of the best definitions I could find, and I could uh, basically this is the best definition I suggest. Makes it very clear what exactly design thinking is. Definitely from a bid and proposal management professional's perspective. A product manager's perspective may be different, a service manager's perspective may be little different, but ultimately they all converge to that same point, that design thinking is a human-centered approach, where you keep not the client, but the human in the client, not the organization, but the evaluator in the organization. It is the user, not only the user group or the user category, but that one user or those 10 users or the 100 users who are going to use the application or the solution, whose life would be impacted by the solution or the product which you are delivering. So design thinking is about thinking about taking a human-centered approach, and it is to create innovation. That is basically, and innovation, I know it's a much abused term allwhere, everywhere, but exactly when you ask anyone, or many of them would be fumbling on defining what is innovation. Innovation is a very simple thing. Innovation is not invention. Innovation is not discovery. Innovation is all about creating a new value with something already exists, something which you already know, something which you already have, but creating a new value of it. And this innovation, this new value, this integrates a new value which basically integrates the needs of the people. And when I say the needs, it can be the emotional need, it can be the functional need, it can be the political needs, it can be the social needs of the people, the possibilities of the technology. Today, we know technology can address so many different possibilities which we didn't even imagine, forget a decade, even a couple of years back. And this last 2 years has helped us actually to imagine, or has shown us the possibilities of technology, that you can work for any organization from anywhere. You don't need to be physically present. So that's the possibility of technology. And obviously, what is required for the business success? For business success in these last 2 years, we realized it is not about having a person physically present in the office, but having a person engaged to the work he is supposed to do, he is supposed to deliver. And that's exactly what design thinking is all about. It's a human-centered approach to innovation, which addresses the needs and every type of need of the people involved, the possibilities what technology can deliver, and the requirements for the business success. It's an outside-in approach. That is, you are looking into the approach from the perspective or the eyes or the lenses of your customer, not from your perspective, that this is my solution, this has got these features, this is what it can do, this is what it costs, this is how we can deliver. Not about that, but looking at it from the client's perspective, how it solves the problem, what value, what impact does it make, how it changes the life, what would it cost. Just a change in the perspective. And then finally, and what do we do with that? You change your processes, you craft your processes based on that functional, emotional, and social need of the user. It is driven, instead of being requirements driven, instead of being just simply compliance and responsiveness driven, you are now empathy driven. Typically, our bid management processes, the frameworks which follow, where whatever framework you follow, the 96 step or 5 step or 20 step, it's all about a linear methodology. But looking into the age what we are living in, where we are not even certain what is the new next thing going to be, what is the new variant of corona going to be, and why, how is it going to be impacting the entire mankind, the humankind. There you cannot have that step 1, step 2, step 3 process thing. You have to have a very adaptable, agile process. And it doesn't need to be that, okay, this would be done by the capture manager, this would be done by the bid manager, this would be done by the proposal manager, this would be done by the solution architect. It has to be multidisciplinary. People have to, when you're trying to solve a problem for an entire set of people need to come together to solve that problem, not working in silos. And you have to find out solutions which is not just focused on the specific requirements which are provided in your RFP. Rather, you have to go for a more divergent thinking. Try to find out what are the possibilities, what may be the reasons for that problem. And then finally, when you finalize over it, then you converge. So design thinking is both divergent and convergent. First, you diverge, try to find out all the possibilities, all the reasons, all the solutions available. And then you converge, which is the best. Then again, you converge to find out, does it work in every situation? Does it work in every scenario? Does it work for satisfy every user? So you are again converging. Then you find out the best things, and then again you diverge that this is the final and the best. And still you go into iterations. And you are inspired by ideas beyond the norms. Today we follow the best practices. Design thinking follows the next practices. Best practices is something which everyone is practicing. Something which somebody has already experienced it and it works for them. So tell them, so they tell, oh, this is the best practice we need to follow. Or this is the best practice that works. People learn from it and there's nothing wrong in doing it. But looking into the best practice or following the best practice, you are actually in the followership league. You are in the followership category. If you have to move beyond the followership into the leadership category, you have to define the next practices. So that's the reason you need to be non-linear, you need to be agile. And we have been hearing this term so much, again, a much abused term. But then we know also the value of it, the business agility. And last 2 years has taught us about business agility. Ask any business leader, they will tell you, okay, last 2 years, what we learned was how can we adapt to the changing situations? How can we make our business agile? How can we build that agility in our teams so that we can adapt to the situation and deliver to that particular situation? And that's exactly what agility is all about. Agility is not having a scrum team. Agility is not having a retrospection. Agility is not having a sprint. Agility is about how you adapt and create value with every step or every action what you do. And again, it is iterative. You cannot say that I am done. You have to go back. If it is not done, if it is not met, you have to go back and do it again and again and again. And finally, it is a creative approach. It is not a framework based approach. It is not, even though design thinking may have a framework, but the approach design thinking does is more creative rather than having a cookie cutter approach, having a one solution fits all approach. Okay. So that's what exactly design thinking is all about. Now, why do I say that bid managers are all design thinkers by default? Okay. And before that, also something which I would try to go back to the slides on the product proposal and presentations we saw. The 3 entities which we saw, which we deal with every day. We sell products, and product, when I say, it can be a solution, it can be a service, because ultimately that's what you're offering. You may be a service provider, you may be a product provider, you may be OEM, you may be hardware, it may be a physical product, it may be a software product, any type of product. It can be any type of service which you can, whether you are a consulting service, whether you are providing it, you are delivering a service, support service, and delivering any type of service. It is your company's product. It is your business product. Then you have your presentations. It's a mode by which you are communicating, you are messaging, you are sharing your thoughts. And then your proposal. Again, that's also a mode of communication of the value which you want to propose to the customer. And these all 3 things, they have one thing in common. they are all being assessed. They're all having an objective. They are all serving a purpose. And they are being remembered because they are providing you an experience. They are delivering you an experience. You look at the apps which you have on your mobile phone. You may be having 20, 30, 40, 10 apps in your mobile, but you remember 1 or 2 or 3 apps because you use them regularly, and they give you the experience which basically makes you achieve what fulfills your needs, whether it's an emotional need or whether it's a functional need or whether it's a social need. So it fulfills that need of yours. So you remember it, and you remember it with an experience. You remember a proposal or a presentation of because of you don't remember what the speaker said, but you remember what you thought when you are hearing that speaker, when you are looking at that particular slide, when you are imagining what actually what that context is all about. You are actually in your own world, you are experiencing it. And trust me, if you just take back a moment and try to think which was the last presentation you remember, you saw, and you remember, it will be really difficult. But you will remember any one such presentation, whether it's the Steve Jobs presentation of the iPhone, or it is a presentation by any of those leaders, or any of that distinguished presenter whose every word or every thought remains with you. And actually, it is not that thought or the word which remains you, it is that experience which you had at that moment that remains with you. And the same thing happens with your proposal. And for that sense, if you see, we are all living in a world of experiences. Every decision we are making, it is based on either our experience or someone else's experience. That's the reason why we have all these reviews on this in this e-commerce sites, on everything, on your social media, everywhere. So basically, we are looking for experiences. We are making our decision based on our experience, whether it is watching a movie on Netflix, whether it's comparing products on Amazon, or even planning a vacation on TripAdvisor, or even selecting a school for our kids. Every decision we are making is driven by experiences, and we look forward to it. Not only just our experience, but others' experiences. And based on that, it drives our decision making. So as proposal management professionals, we also need to deliver. There is a need to deliver, and we need to strive to make our proposals compelling. And to make it compelling, we need to deliver the best experience to the proposal evaluators. And persuade them, not only persuade to select us over the competition, but make us their partners. Remember us that this is a company which gives us the best experience. They may be the costliest, they may be they may not have everything, but whatever they do, they provide us the best experience. And that exactly is what the point I'm trying to make over here is, that use design thinking to deliver that experience to your proposal evaluators. And how we can do that. And before that, as I said, that why we are design thinkers by default. So, every proposal which we work upon, that goes through a process of qualification. Okay. And when we do a qualification of the process, we look at it from multiple different perspectives. From a APMP best practice, we say, is it real? Is it winnable? And do we want it? These are the 3 perspectives we look at it. And nothing wrong with that perspective. But typically, if you see, whether it's the presentation or whether it's a product, they also are actually evaluated on those 3 experiences. And that is the core of design thinking. That what is the innovation in design thinking? Innovation in design thinking is basically the integration of the people's needs, the feasibility of the technology possibilities, and the business requirement. We discussed this, we saw it in the definition. So we have the people, we have the business, and the technology. When we are looking at it, we are looking at it like whether it is real. Is it desirable? Do people really want it? Is it going to serve their needs? Do they have that budget to pay for it. That defines whether it's real. Is it possible for us to win it? Do we have the capabilities? Do we have the solution? Do we have the experience to do it? So we are checking the feasibility part of it. That's the win part of it. And then finally, does it make sense for us as a business? Is it going to give us a sustainable business model? Will it deliver us the paybacks which we expect by making that investment in that project, in that product? That is, we are checking the viability of it from a business sense. And this is exactly, isn't this exactly what we do when we qualify an opportunity? So you see that opportunity and that innovation, they are exactly the same things. The opportunities which we pursue, which we qualify as bid managers, as proposal managers, following the principles of even the best practices of APMP, actually we are innovating. We are only looking for those opportunities. We are qualifying those opportunities which are at that integration of the people, business, and technology, or the real win and worth part of it. And this is what is the basic core of design thinking. Now let us get more into the framework of design thinking. So there are different schools of design thinking. Each design school, but ultimately the Stanford Design Thinking D School is one of the very early design thinking setups or organizations where design thinking started as a practice, which made design thinking popular amongst within the industry. And there was a huge investment done in that, but no one but company like SAP, the National Platter Institute of Design School, was it was chaired by the chairman of SAP, because they knew that yes, SAP being such a complex platform product and such a valuable product, they knew the early value of design thinking. Later it was taken up by so many other companies, whether it's Apple, Google, product companies like IDEO, and so many who made design thinking so popular. Okay, so design, and then MIT Sloan School of Management, from where I did my design thinking training, my learning of my design thinking, where I learned it had not a different approach, but of course it is more product centric approach. But again, the underlying principles were all the same. So if you see the entire design thinking framework, it has got 5 different components. Okay, and this is not a linear component that you do this and this. It's a very non-linear arrangement. Okay, the first component or the first phase of it is the empathize phase. Now this is the phase where you see the world, the customer's world, the client's world from their perspective. You understand their feelings. You appreciate them as human beings, not only as users who will be using your system, who will be appreciating or who will be recommending your system. You communicate, and it is not only about understanding, it is also about getting it vetted, getting it validated by communicating your understanding with them. So that's basically the empathize phase. The second phase is basically the define phase, where you try to understand the problems which you identified during the empathize phase. Because when you're communicating with them, you are understanding their needs, you're understanding their hot buttons, motivators, but you're going much beyond that. And you're understanding not only those needs, but also what are driving those needs. What is driving, what is the root cause of that need? How do you overcome that? And then you are creating a synthesis of the insights, whatever you are learning, whatever insights you are getting. And just not that, because most of the times we know that what the customers say and what they mean or what they do, there may be a variance, and there is always a variance in it. So you don't only need to see what they say or understand what they say, but you also need to know how they do it, what they feel about it, and what they think about it. So that's also important, and that's what you do in the define phase. And one of the most major activities which you do in the design phase is basically phrasing or framing and reframing the problem. Instead of saying that the customer needs a CRM system, you reframe that same statement saying, how might we help the customer to maintain a better relationship with their clients? It's the same problem, but you have reframed it. And when you reframe it, your approach towards solving the problem also changes. And that helps you to ask the right questions, which is basically your ideate stage. And you step beyond the obvious. Something, when you say the customer needs a CRM system, it's obvious they need a CRM system, but why? So you step beyond that obvious and you uncover those unexpected areas where you do not have, where you may not have looked in, or even the customer may not have stated in their RFP document. And you get the volume and the variety of different thoughts, different perspectives from the client side, from the market, from your solution side. And then you ideate to find out what exactly is the best thing. And then you prototype it. It is not only that you gather the ideas, you try to build together, you try to experiment with these ideas, you try to put those ideas together in some form where it can be verified, it can be validated. And that's exactly the prototype. And you not only create the prototype, you test it, you validate it in different scenarios, in different environments, in different users. And you finalize on a final solution, but not even final, a solution final for that particular phase. And you test it with the real users in the real scenario. So those are the 5 phases which you actually go through in the design thinking phases. There's a lot more details to it, but I have just tried to simplify and explain. Now you may ask me, like, how does it relate to bid and proposal management phases? If you see that empathize phase and the define phase, these are actually your capture management phases. Your ideate phase is basically your solution phase. It may overlap between your capture and your proposal planning phase, where you're freezing on, you're ideating on the solution. Your prototype, it is not the prototype of the solution which you are building, but the prototype of the proposal which you are building. Your mock-ups, your storyboards, they are actually the prototype of the proposal which you are building. And your test, these are your reviews. Looking at it from different perspectives, different customers, the red team review or the final document review, the pink team review or the content plan review. They are nothing but testing that product and looking at your proposal as a product, not just simply mere a document, but a product that needs to meet the needs of the customer, a product that needs to deliver that experience, a product that needs to create that value for the customer. Now, when you have this all, your perspective, your approach towards your entire proposal development changes. And to do that, how it differs, and so you may question, like, how it differs. Right now we are phrased, or we are boxed with solution thinking. We try to find out the solution. Nothing wrong with that. Yes, the customer is engaging us to give us a solution. But when you go with the solution thinking approach, you are being only the business and technology centric. You're forgetting that human part of it. Whereas design thinking brings in the people and the experience, keeping the human at the center of it. Typically, your solution thinking starts, okay, let me understand the requirement. Let me design a solution around the requirements. Let me build a prototype, validate the design. So basically, you are going in a linear mode. That's basically your waterfall model. Whereas in your design thinking, you are going in an iterative and agile mode, where you are incrementing step by step. You're adding value step by step. You're going back to if it is not working, you're going back to the drawing board and doing that. And you're trying to create that experience, and you're trying to create that value. Agile, the best thing of agile is that every sprint of agile creates a value, creates something. Agile sprint is complete only when it delivers something which is executable, which is verifiable. So the same thing happens with you when you are going in your design thinking mode. Obviously, in design, in your solution centric approach, you have the business analyst, the subject matter expert trying to understand the problems and understand the domain, trying to bring in their experience from that domain, trying to bring in their experience from the solution perspective. the solution architect trying to build the solution, the project manager trying to build, the program manager trying to build the delivery programs, the delivery schedules, identifying the risk. Every individual is working, everyone is working individually. Whereas in a design thinking approach, you're working collaboratively because you are looking at, okay, what are the possibilities? What are the challenges? What are the constraints? What are the solutions? Will this solution work? What is the experience with this solution? How is it different from the past experience? And you're having a collaborative and cross-functional team which is working together. Your solution approach, solution thinking approach is requirements driven, where the requirements drive the prototype. Your compliance and responsiveness, being compliant and being responsiveness is your prototype, your proposal. Whereas compliance and responsiveness is by default. Your prototype is driving that. This is what we need to do to deliver the best experience to the client. Of course, when you are in a solution thinking, it is challenging, it is draining, it is stressful, and you feel the pressure of work. But when you are working with a team, you are discovering, you're enjoying, you're basically discovering everything, you're creating new value, you're seeing the outcomes of it every day. You are feeling it more like a play. You are playing like, remember the Lego blocks, you used to play with the Lego blocks and create a new structure, and how good you used to feel. It's the same experience when you're working together in a team, as a collaboration. And more important thing is that where you are creating that value, that thrills, that creates a thrill for the customer. That's basically the approach of design thinking. Now, what are the tools and techniques you need to have for design thinking? There are hundreds of tools and techniques and methods. They are known as methods, tools and techniques, as per my understanding or knowledge. And these tools and techniques are not only related to design thinking. They're not coming from that this is how the design thinking tools. These are actually tools and techniques which you are using across different practices. And that's why exactly what we say, that you learn from other practices. So if you see personas, which is one of the method for identifying who would be a customer's ideal vendor. That is what we call as the ideal vendor profile. Now, this has come through a tool or a technique which we call as the persona analysis. Now, persona analysis is something which the UI and the UX guys use, which to understand who will be using the product, what is their level, what is the experience they expect. Contextual inquiry is something like your requirements gathering, but in that particular context, it is not based on driven by the business function. It is more like seeing what the user does, why he is doing it, how he is doing it, what he is experiencing while he is doing it, what he feels about doing it. Contextual inquiry, problem statement, again, your requirements, So all these things, and typically the ones which I have highlighted in blue are the ones which I have used in my proposals, which I have used and seen the value of it getting delivered to my clients, for the clients for whom I consult, for whom I create proposals. So, and I have seen the value of it, and my clients vet on that value, can vet on that value. Fine. So what do we need to do to adapt to design thinking? First thing, you need to build that understanding of, or inculcate that thought of design thinking. Understand what it can do for you. Read, you do a design thinking Google search, you will get millions of blogs, articles, thoughts, and very valuable things. Lot of design thinking materials is available for free. Learning materials, reading materials, they are available for free. Lot of design thinking professionals are ready to volunteer and share their experiences, share their thoughts. But from your perspective, you need to first think, what does it mean for you as your organization? How can you try it? I am not saying that go and boil the ocean, throw away your existing framework, throw away your existing process. Think about how can you try it? What difference would it make? What impact would it make? How can you use it for an upcoming opportunity? Try to sell it within your organization. How can you get people experiment with it, play with it? And how can you see the results and expect the results? And what is the ROI of it? Basically, we are in a business. So everybody wants to look for an ROI. So how can you create that ROI? What is that ROI? And of course, then finally deliver. That requires some level of formalism. And how are you going to do it? How, what sort of capabilities do you need to do it? And finally, if that works for you, how can you adapt it? How can you make it your culture? So that's all about design thinking, how I have, what I understand about design thinking, what I feel design thinking can do in bid and proposal management, and how I have used design thinking. And just before the start of this webinar, I was telling Bhaskar that in last 1 year, I have actually also realized that design thinking can help, design thinking actually helped me, or that approach of design thinking helped me into build a product today, which even in its beta stage is being used by users across geographies. It's a product which I would love you all to see and use, test, and find the experience of it. And you will see one good thing. It's a product for creating your presentations, and not just for your presentation, but visuals for your proposals. Okay, so you can get a lot of visuals for your proposals right on the site. If there's no obligation to join, to sign up for with a credit card or time limit. It is absolutely free. And if you see what is the design thinking approach we have done, what we have done is the most important and the most prominent thing what we have done is the feedback, because what we look for from the user is the feedback, because that is the basic tenet of design thinking, that get your user involved. Unless you have the right information or the right thing from your feedback from your user, unless you keep the user at the center, you are not going to deliver them that experience. So this is what we have tried to do, and we are learning every day from it. Every day we are learning from it, and every day we are creating a value for our customers, and every day I will say customers, our users, and every day they are coming back for more and more. So with that, I conclude my session here, my presentation here, not my session. Oh, sorry about that. And I am open to take any questions. I see there are a lot of things happening in the chat. Or Bhaskar, if you want to just have the questions, collect the questions, ask me. I think we have a few minutes for that.
Yes, Abhijit, thank you so much for sharing it again.
Bhaskar, just give me a minute. My Bluetooth speaker has gone off. I just need to get it connected.
No worries. No.
I'm done, please.
Thank you, Abhijit. I think, there are the two important points that I picked it up from this. Number one is, while you're writing a proposal, how much do you care about the experiences your buyer is going to get out of this? The emotional aspects of it, the empathetic aspect of it. That's step one. Step two is, have you considered your proposal as a product? If so, whatever you're writing now, the way you are actually positioning it, will you position it in the same way? So two important valuable lessons, and then I hope you've got some building blocks to actually test this within your organization. So as a kind of an overarching question here, Abhijit, you did mention about this adapting design thinking. So just one way, there are lots of bids and proposal professionals will be watching this, catching up later within the recording. What's the one advice you would give them to implement this, or if so, experiment it within their organization? An organization that has robust process, framework, you name it, introducing design thinking, just a very basic, early, quick win for them. Any suggestions?
Yeah. So, and this is absolutely based on my personal experience. And I said that in a very, I shared that also in the webinar, that don't try to boil the ocean, change everything in one day. Okay. Try it out. Design thinking is all about experimentation. Try it out. And where you can try, where the good thing and the best thing I have seen working is that, because you create, there are two types of proposals. One proposal, which is a formal proposal, which you are doing in response to an RFP or a RFITT or a PQQ. But there are so many informal proposals which you are also creating. Okay. Try experimenting with an informal proposal. try applying design thinking principles in an informal proposal. Maybe a very small value proposal, and most importantly, where you do not have much clarity, and neither your client has much clarity on what is the requirement, what is the outcome they are looking at. Start from there, and you will see the results. You will see the low-hanging early results when you take a design thinking approach, that yes, both you and your client both agree that this is exactly what we need to build, what we need to deliver. The client knows what I need to expect, what I will get, and you know what you will need to deliver, and you also know what it will take to deliver, and the client also knows what he needs to pay to get that experience. So that is my one 2 cents solution suggestion I would make here. Does that answer you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's people are keen to implement it, but they just want to have that initial kick with it, and that's very useful. Experiment that with an informal proposal, and then see if you're trying that with design thinking proposals, how will you apply that? Good luck with that. So thank you, Abhijit. So Scribble quiz opens now. Get ready, be close to your chat box. If you know already, a Scribble quiz is about 3 questions from this actual webinar. So people, thank you for staying until end. We monitor the engagement. So thank you for people who joined that initial assertion test as well. Everybody scores the points and we accumulate the points, and the leaderboard, month-on-month leaderboard on Scribble top 50 will be announced every month, and we are going to announce the very first leaderboard early March. So thank you for joining. So the first question: customers are sold on benefits and what? Answer in the chat box.
Am I supposed to participate?
No.
You have an iPad. My iPad actually has gone wrong. Something I badly need an iPad.
Got it. I think Sudeep and Grace, you got it. The answer is experience. Nice. We'll thank you for that. Thank you for joining as well. Obviously, we score the people who also participates. They get a point, and people who win the quiz gets 2 points. So question number 2. Innovation is what? Abhijit mentioned it's one of the most abused terms, but he came out with a very interesting or a very simple definition, which makes a lot of sense to me. According to Abhijit, what is innovation? Grace, you nailed it. Oh my God, Grace, you are such a great listener. Well done, you.
I really appreciate Grace. Thank you for your attention, Grace.
Well done, guys. I think everybody joining the last question. Let's see who's going to nail it. At the very end, Abhijit mentioned there are lots of methods, there are lots of different tools, free tools or different tools that you could use. The very first tool he had told us about, this is a tool that you could use to identify your ideal vendor. What was the tool? Oh my God. Nice. Yes, it's personas. So again, Piyush, Vinay, Grace, Jaswant, thank you for trying. That ends our Scribble Quest. Team will be in touch with you. In addition to the slides, we will also give you access to one of our learning courses. And as we end, please to share your experience in social media. And next week, we have the poll results of a quick poll: who is staying, who's winning, or who's staying or who's moving. Headline is 31% of our proposal professionals are looking to move roles within the next 3 months. And this is from close to 700 entries. So we'll share the quick poll results, and we'll also announce the winner of the iPad. So if you haven't, please do join the quick poll, and the link is on the top of the chat. We'll also add it at the end of the webinar in the email notes. You're going to get it. That's fine. Next week, we have quick polls announcement on the 1st of March. 4th of March, we have Len Miller joining us, talking about the art of shaping requirements. You can find all the list of upcoming webinars and workshops in baachuscribble.com, live workshop. But that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the love and support. And thank you, Abhijit. Always a pleasure to host you. And colleagues, if you don't know, Abhijit had cough and he kindly joined in. He had everything in ginger, cloves, you name it. And he kindly shared that with us. So Abhijit, thank you again with the bottom of my heart of doing it. We all love you. Continue to stay healthy, continue to inspire us. And we'll see you very soon again. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And look after yourself, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. See you next week.
Thank you, Master. It was great opportunity, and thank you, everyone. One small request: please go out and try slideage.ai. You will and share your experience. That's it. That's the only thing I request I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. Thank you.